grabbing your beer and grabbing a coke. We about to sit for an hour, bullshit and tell jokes. And please don't mix it up, cause he done sobered up. Brandon T Comedy on your social media feeds. And Brandon Taz here, is your ex drinking buddy. Brandon Taz here, is your ex drinking buddy. Brandon Taz here, is your ex drinking buddy. Brandon Taz here, is your ex drinking buddy.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into another edition of Brennan Tassif is your ex-drinking buddy. I'm your host, Brennan Tassif. If you are new to the program, quick rundown of the show. I used to be everyone's favorite drinking buddy. It was one of my favorite things to hang out with friends, talk shit, talk shop, and reminisce about old drinking stories while we're getting hammered, doing drugs, getting in trouble. I am sober now, but that is still one of my favorite things to do. Most weeks I will be joined by a guest. This week is no exception. Coming to you via Boston, now in New York City, actor Matthew Fagerberg.
Nailed it, dude.
I was so nervous.
It's a tough one. I got to get that. I have I used to have, my old manager wanted me to change that for forever, but that's the family name. So
you're keeping it?
Yeah, I'll make people like you learn how to pronounce it.
Yeah. No, it's the same thing. My last name is Tassif, and when you say it, it's like when you see it, it's phonetic, so you can pronounce it.
Same thing with Fagerberg. Yeah, it's just exactly how it's written.
Yeah, but it's one of those things where you see it, and then like I'm thinking, and I'm like, wait, was it burger? Was it burger?
Yeah,
I was like,
yeah.
How many R's are in it? So introduce yourself to the people. Like I said, we do have a few listeners here and there. So you are an actor by trade.
I am, yes, yeah.
So, quick question. You were in The Equalizer. Denzel, really a dickhead or not? Just kidding. You don't have to answer that.
I did a scene with him that got cut. I was playing a bartender, believe it or not.
Yeah.
Real method cut there. And I would say that I did a scene with him. I'm not sure I ever met the man because I rehearsed with his body double.
Oh, really?
His body double was this dude who was about 5'2", like 200 pounds. Didn't look anything like Denzel.
That's hilarious.
Because Denzel was going to be sitting.
So they do. Yeah.
Yeah. So
it doesn't matter because he's sitting.
Right. So I rehearsed with that guy like 3 times, and then I turned around. The assistant director was saying something to me, and I turned back, and Denzel was sitting in front of me. Didn't say a word to me. It was like 20 more seconds. Action. We did the scene twice, and then he walked away.
Really?
So, he did his lines with me, and that's it. He just came in.
I honestly, because you told me that you were like, yeah, I had a bit part in The Equalizer, and so I honestly was thinking about it at the gym today. I was like, oh, I'm just gonna like throw it out there as like a gotcha thing, but I was gonna do it as like a joke. I didn't realize you had a whole story to go with it.
Yeah. Did a scene with him that got cut, and I have another small scene with Chloe St. Moritz, who was the other like lead in that film.
Okay,
that's in there. But the one with Denzel didn't get it, and he literally he appeared like an apparition, and then just did the scene with me and was gone.
So how long? This is super interesting. So I normally have comics or musicians on the show. I've had a few actors though, so I just kind of want to let everyone know. For those of you listening, if you can't hear it in his voice, Matthew's an incredibly attractive man. So how did you get into? And I watched your reels because I do research for this podcast, and they were fantastic. So what happened? So you grew up in Boston, and then you just decided I want to act, or how did it play out?
It was kind of a gradual thing where I moved towards. So I grew up in South Boston.
No accent either, which is interesting.
Well, back when I was drinking, if I had a couple of martinis right now, it would come right out.
Yeah.
Or you put me around some family members,
it comes out.
Yeah. The R's
Fuck you.
The R's go away and shit like that.
Yeah.
But no, so South Boston's kind of blue-collar neighborhood. My family's blue-collar, and I grew up playing hockey.
Okay.
And, from the time I was – my dad put me on skates when I was, 2.
Okay. So Ben Affleck in The Town kind of thing.
Yeah, sort of.
Yeah.
Sort of, yeah, minus, the bank robbery.
Yeah,
stuff.
but –
that would have been nice, actually. I don't have the balls for that. I barely have the balls to act. So – I literally thought I was going to do that for the rest of my life up until I got a scholarship to play hockey.
Okay, where at?
In high school.
Okay.
At the school called Catholic Memorial, which is a big hockey school in the Northeast, well known. And then going into my junior year there, I got a massive knee injury.
Oh shit.
I had a chronically dislocating kneecap, and that ended up like it was like the 5th or 6th time that it happened. I happened to tear a bunch of ligaments with it too.
Oh my god.
And then so that was kind of the end of that, because it was like it ended up being like a 13-month recovery to be able to be back on skates. And by that time,
you would have been out of high school.
Well, yeah, that school was super competitive, so my spot was gone, and they were good to me. They let me keep the scholarship and whatever for my last year and a half.
Yeah.
But that was like the first time, I was like 16, 17 then. It was the first time in my life where I even had to think about what I was going to do.
Yeah, and I know that exact feeling, because the same thing happened to me with football when they're like, yeah, you've had too many concussions. Like, this is like you can't really play anymore. And you're like, no, this is what I do. Like, what do you mean I can't?
Right.
Like, what?
Yeah, it was that kind of moment. Not when I got hurt, but when I lost a spot, like 8 months in, when my
So you're recovering. You think, all right, I'm gonna be all right. Like, I'll get back, and then they take the spot from you.
Yeah.
Okay.
He basically said I'd have to retry out whenever.
Oh, fuck you.
Whenever it came around, yeah. Because I kind of get it, because this was a school that was kind of like perennially competing for like state championships and shit.
Yeah.
But I always thought I'd get to the point where I'd be able, to get back. But even like 8-9 months into that, where I could barely skate and it just I wasn't the same out there.
Were you hesitant on the ice because of the injury?
Yeah, I kind of like I got like the fear.
Yeah, you lost it.
Because I played in a couple scrimmages, when I was allowed to like skate again, like kind of like padless scrimmages, just like shinny. And that fearlessness that you need and that I had before, because I'd never been injured, period, before.
Yeah.
I was like shook. And yeah, that was the first time in my life I ever had to think about, all right, well, what am I going to do?
So what happens? What do you did you think? Because you're still going to this very prestigious school.
Yeah, and I was a good student.
Okay.
So I had, I still academically, I still had a lot of like options for school.
Were you partying and stuff in high school? I know.
Yeah.
Okay, I was gonna say, because it's a weird dynamic, because hockey players, you automatically think like heavy drinkers, like party animals, but then you're saying you're going to this really prestigious school, so it's like goody two shoes, get good grades. So where does like the after party kind of in this school environment, how does that play out?
Well, I was, I kind of had like a double
yeah, I've seen Departed.
Not a double life, but so
I've seen DiCaprio's character.
Yeah, I didn't want to quote that and be like, you were kind
I bet you had two different fucking accents, didn't you?
You North Shore Irish fuck. No.
This is gonna be the whole podcast quoting Boston movies.
I would absolutely do that podcast too. Just quote.
You were like two different people.
But so we had, right before I went to high school, we moved out of Southie and to Plymouth, Massachusetts, which is like the South Shore.
Okay.
Fucking da. No. So we moved out of the city, so I commuted back to go to school, because the high school was in Boston. So
okay.
I did like a reverse commute for 4 years. And so I had friends in Plymouth and I had friends in the city. So
this literally is just playing out like that scene in The Office, like in The Departed, where they're all in the office and Mark Wahlberg's like going in on him. I bet you had two different fucking accents. So you were going into I'm sorry, I gotta stop. You're going into the city, but then you're reverse community. You're going back out to go home instead of the other way around. Right.
So at school and like around the team and stuff, I was very disciplined. Like I said, I was a good student. And the hockey team, I mean, we'd have like beers and stuff every once in a while, but, they kind of scared us so much into, you'd lose your spot, or,
and the scholarship
your grades canceled, you'll lose your. So everyone was kind of like we were buttoned up on that team and disciplined. But then I had my friends down the South Shore in Plymouth, who they all went to public school.
Yeah.
Not disparaging public school, but
I went to public school. You didn't, but I can say.
They got after it. So like
there's the accent.
Around the time I got injured was when, I started like drinking in earnest, and
same for me. Yeah, as soon as they were like, you're not playing anymore, it's like, I guess I'm just gonna drink all the time then.
Yeah, so it was weekends then. I'd go to school. And then, after when I wasn't playing hockey, I'd come back to Plymouth for the weekends because, I was kind of disconnected from my friends on the team and stuff at that point. So I would, in retrospect, probably a little depressed about that. So I'll come back to Plymouth and you just for Saturday, Sunday, just drink every
All
hour.
That,
which, I mean, was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's a blast. I tell people that all the time. So you are an ex-drinking buddy, to reference the title of the show, because you are sober now, correct?
Yeah, I've been sober about a year and a half.
Okay. And it's interesting because you've probably heard this too. I say this bit on stage, but you hear it all the time that my worst day sober is better than my best day drunk. And I always think, what a bunch of fucking losers.
Yeah.
Like, I had great days drunk.
I had some good some
day
days that were
drinking
way
drunk?
better than being sober.
Yeah. So, but I mean, obviously the bad, in my situation, and the listeners know this, the bad far outweighed any fun that I would have. And then eventually just stopped being fun altogether, which is why I got sober.
Yeah.
But so for you at this time, you're young, you're having a good time. You're, like you said, retrospect, you might be depressed that you lost everything that you had worked for your entire life.
Yeah,
Gone.
I was lost. In general, I was lost, and I'd always liked movies. And my dad and I, a big part of our relationship was watching movies and TV together.
Oh, okay, that makes a lot of sense then.
We always stayed up on it, and in school, I was a good writer. I was good at like the English side of things, and then couldn't do math for shit. So, this is what I meant when I said it was like baby steps to get to acting, because I decided, I want to be a writer, so I'll get into like writing for TV and film, like script writing.
And what I just like the timeline aspect of it. When is this? Is this in high school or just after high school?
This is like around like making decisions for college.
Okay.
Because, I had, some good, like, liberal arts options, like Holy Cross up in Worcester and, like, NYU, like, just for their liberal arts program. But I threw my parents a curveball, and I said I wanted to go to Emerson, which is also in Boston. And they're a big film and film school. And they have a program for writing for TV and film. They have a major.
That's okay. That's an actual thing. You can go there just for that.
Right. So I had this kind of private inkling that that's what I wanted to try and do, and I hadn't told anybody yet, really. So I kind of sprung that on them, and we went and visited it, and they were like, Emerson is a very artsy school, and the kids that go there are like that.
Yeah.
And so my parents...
Say no more. Everyone listening knows exactly who you're talking
there's
about.
A lot of, like,
There's some people listening who are those people.
Colored hair and shit my parents hadn't seen before.
Oh, yeah, because they're blue collar from fucking South Boston.
Yeah. And
your dad walking around like, the fuck is this?
Right. And Emerson's one of the most well-known, LGBTQ campuses for, like, generations. It's been like that.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, my parents were kind of looking at me sideways, and then I told them that that's what I wanted to do, and they've always just kind of blindly supported me. Like,
that's awesome.
Like, you could tell, and even still a little bit, they're like not quite sure, they don't understand it, but they're like, okay,
if this is what you want to do, then we got you.
Right. So that's how I ended up at Emerson, and I was doing writing for TV and film. And actually, my first week there, orientation week, my parents had dropped me off probably like 4 days earlier. I'm kind of meeting, these kids, and, I'm already getting the sense that I'm kind of like the first, like, true Boston person a lot of these people are running into.
Well, and it's interesting because your whole life you've been kind of, you played hockey. I'm assuming you were popular. You partied with your friends in Plymouth. And now you are at a school that's compiled of mainly outsiders. But now you're the outsider at this school because it's like we're all these very unique
but they thought it was cool.
People. Yeah, and they're like, who the fuck is this regular old white guy coming in here?
Right. And so, like, I was kind of like, not the odd, but I was like the odd duck, like, orientation week, but in like a good way, because everyone was like, oh, man, you're from here?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you played sports? Like, oh, you don't just sit around listening like Velvet Underground all day? Or you know what I mean? So it was the first weekend of orientation, and my buddy Matt from Plymouth came down. And
first weekend, getting it going.
Yeah, we paid this homeless guy who was out front of the dorms to go into a liquor store for us, and we got like a quart of Rubinoff and orange juice, and brought it up.
What is Rubinoff?
Rubinoff is like plastic, like jug handle
Oh,
vodka.
okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
yeah,
$8 for a gallon kind of shit.
Yeah.
So we brought that up in the dorms,
God.
and we're just like passing it around. And my friend Matt had just bought a Vespa, so he wanted to like ride it around on Tremont Street in the Common and kind of like show it off for these kids. So we all like 6 of us go down to get it, and we notice the security guards who run the desk are asleep. So we bring thing, his Vespa, up the stairs, past the security, into the elevator, bring it upstairs to our dorm, and we're riding it down the hallway.
Oh, no.
And so he's like whipping it around the hallway and like into the common room, and everyone's coming out because it's a Vespa running down the hallway. So I get on this thing, and I'm going down the hall, and someone called out my name. And I looked back, and I looked forward, and I hit one of those like industrial garbage cans that are in dorm hallways.
Yeah.
And my arm went into it, like through the flap, and I went over it, and I broke my wrist and had to get a plate and 2 screws put in.
Holy shit.
That was week 1 of college.
So here we go.
My dad had to come up. First of all, I crashed, and I knew it broke right away. Like I felt it.
Yeah, you could.
But I was
You're an athlete, you know your body,
yeah,
so you're like, oh, this is bad.
Drunk enough where it didn't hurt.
Yeah.
But I was walking around being like, I just broke my wrist, and everyone thought I was fucking with them. So no one believed me. So I had to go downstairs and catch a cab to Mass General Hospital by myself.
Oh my God.
Go to the emergency room.
Hammered at 18.
Yeah, and they got an MRI or whatever, and they were like, yeah, that's broken and you're going to need surgery. So my dad had to come up at like 3 in the morning.
Oh, God.
And I remember he walked in, and they had me in this thing. It was like Chinese finger traps, but for all 5 of your fingers. So your hand would just kind of hang.
Yeah.
And that was to kind of move the bones to get ready for the surgery. So my dad walks in, and I'm in this contraption. And he's like, you've been here for fucking 4 days. He was like, what are you doing? He was like, we moved in your mattress 4 days ago. Like, how am I already here at the hospital and you need surgery?
Oh, that's hilarious.
So that was kind of like a little foreshadowing that Emerson was not going to go well for me.
So what ended up happening? Did you stay at Emerson, or did you decide to leave? Or
so I stayed there for 2 years, and I went through, the first year of the writing for TV and film program, and I wasn't disciplined for it, and that was when I first started working in bars. And it was a bar that would let me drink there. And so, and I was hanging out with people that were older than me in like their mid-20s. And I just liked doing that more.
Yeah. The lifestyle can be incredibly addictive itself. And that's something that, it took me a while. My drinking was like way out of control, but it took me a while when I first got sober this last time to be like, oh, this, like, you have to relearn how to do a lot of stuff. Because everything I would do, I would do drunk, go to the movies, hang out with friends, watch games. Like all this stuff I had to relearn how to do sober. And the first time I went to rehab in 2013, I started to do that. Like I started doing stand-up sober and stuff like that. But it's just really weird because sometimes you miss that feeling of like, oh, I just want to like get hammered and like not give a shit.
Right.
So it's that almost becomes as addicting as the feeling of being, you know what I mean? So it's right. It can be weird how
you get addicted to kind of not having inhibitions.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I know there are some days because there's a leak in our bathroom. We've got work because you and I work in the same restaurant. I have stand up stuff, the podcast. There's some days where I wake up and I was just like, what would be nice? To just do a couple shots and not give a shit about anything going on at all.
Right.
But it's like, I can't, I won't,
right.
I
or
can't.
To have one of those
like,
days, like I miss like the day drink.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where I'm going to fucking start at 10 a.m. today.
Yeah.
And go to like 7.
And just turn on
and not care about anything.
Netflix, turn off the phone. I know I have enough money in my account if I want to run out and get food.
Right.
Like, I could use my card for anything, like, within reason. And I'm good.
Right.
Like,
I just want to slip into the hole, dude.
Yeah.
And just do whatever I want for like 13 hours. Yeah.
I do miss those days sometimes. But then obviously, the reason I stay sober is because you think about it and you're like, okay, well, that's my first thought, but then all the shit that comes with it is not worth it for me, because then I don't stop drinking and then I end up in the hospital or arrested. Because the only times in my alcoholism where I actually stopped was in the ER or in jail.
When you had to.
Yeah, because you can't. They won't give you booze in the hospital.
No.
Fucking assholes.
Ask,
yeah.
Yeah.
And in your situation, you're like, yeah, 4 days into it.
Yeah.
Broken wrist, and then
I mean, not just broke. Like I still have a plate and 2 screws.
That's
in
crazy.
That wrist.
And then fast forward, you last 2 years there.
Yeah, and like I said, I started working in bars. I worked at Blue Man Group, and they had a bar downstairs. So I started there as an usher, and then I worked at the bar there with my still one of my best friends in the world. Jeff Davis hired me there.
Shout out Jeff Davis. He'll hear this.
Yeah, I'm sure he will. He follows everything I do.
Does he? Oh, that's a good friend.
And that's just what I started doing, and I wasn't good at the discipline of writing, so I didn't stick with it. But at Emerson, because there's a huge film department, someone was always doing a short film all the time. So a couple of my really good friends that I live with, Evan and Brian, were in the film department and asked me to be, it was just like one of their short films they had to do to finish out a semester in like film production 1 class.
Okay.
They need someone to act in it. So I did that. I did those 2 for them, for their like projects. And it was the first time I'd been on a set and interacted, in that environment. And all the equipment and stuff in the soundstage at Emerson is like state of the art.
Okay, so it's like that's what I was just going to ask. It's like a real set.
Oh yeah. I mean, Emerson had all that shit, like red cameras, like.
So it's not like a bunch of buddies in the park with an iPhone.
No, but it was that vibe of like hanging out with your buddies, but they were really
on a full set.
But we were really making something.
Yeah.
And I fell in love with that environment, and I did, really well, and I got, good responses, not just from them, but from their professors about the work I did on those. So then I was like, well, maybe that's what I want to do. And I was always like really, kind of trepidatious about like public speaking and stuff.
Okay.
And I think, the writing for TV and film thing was kind of like, I knew I wanted to try acting, but I didn't really have the courage to make that leap yet, so I kind of did like the half measure with the writing.
Yeah.
But that really got me into it and inspired me. But Emerson, their acting program is the one program you can't transfer into because people have to audition for it.
Yeah. Okay. So they don't want people to try to sidestep the system.
Right, and it's totally fair. So I did this whole appeal process, to try and get them just to let me audition.
Oh, okay. I found it interesting. You're like, yeah, it's totally fair. So I fought it tooth and nail.
No, I like understood it completely, and they were like, no, you can't do it.
But you're like, still, I'm going to try to do it.
Fuck you, like, let me do it.
Yeah.
Because I did, like, same thing with, like, when I was playing hockey. I just kind of had this blind confidence that, I can do this.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm better than all these people that have been doing it since they were 3.
Yeah.
It was just, like, delusion/confidence.
But sometimes that's not unfounded.
No, it's kind of a good thing in this racket and in stand up too.
Yeah.
Where I find anyway, you until you get to a certain point, you kind of have to have a degree of delusion because it's an insane.
You have to.
It's an insane thing to pursue.
Yeah, absolutely. People,
and I'm aware of that.
Yeah, I'm sure people tell you just like they tell me all the time. It's like, well, what's your plan B? It's like if there's a plan B, there's no plan A. So there is no plan B. Like, it's this.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, but what if it doesn't work? You're like, then it's this. I tell people all the time, I'm perfectly fine with being extensively poor for the rest of my life, as long as I get to do stand-up. Like, obviously, the goal is for the podcast to take off and to be self-sufficient through Patreon and stand-up. But, I'm going to keep doing this because I love doing this. So it's not.
There's no other option at this point.
Nothing else.
I'm dug in. Yeah.
You know what I was going to do? I was going to play football. And then that got taken from me, so fuck you. That was plan A. Right. This was plan B.
I've never been a plan B guy.
Yeah, no, there's no, fuck that. So, oh, man. I'm super curious. What was your first, what happened with the appeals process? They said no at all?
Yeah, so I mean, they're a super liberal school, so they had like a design your own curriculum. So they let me go through this whole appeal process. And in the end, they said no, but they offered me like a couple classes I could take. And, you know, at that point, I was falling in love with the bar life, and I was in this like super, super toxic like relationship you get into at that time of your life with
Maya, go. Sorry.
With you know, a girl who's older than me that I met through that scene.
Yeah.
So I just dropped out, and
Okay.
Actually, kind of the saving grace of it, as I went deeper and deeper into that world for like years, and in this bad relationship for almost 5 years.
Oh, wow.
But one of the Blue Men put me on to this guy, Scott Fielding, who ran what's called the Michael Chekhov studio in Boston. And he's like this acting guru that's been doing it forever. And he teaches two kind of techniques, the Meisner technique, which you may have heard of.
No, I'm not familiar.
And he teaches the Michael Chekhov technique.
What's the Meisner technique? Is
The
there any way
Meisner
you could like surmise it into like a couple sentences?
No.
Oh, okay.
But it's what I would call like a foundational technique for acting.
Okay.
And it's very well known. It's kind of like essential for film work. It's just
Well, then I'm gonna need to look it up.
yeah.
'Cause
And I mean,
need
there's
to-
a ton of good teachers in New
Yeah.
York. But so I went through a year-long program with him that was just this Meisner technique, and then I went into the Chekhov technique, which is really this kind of like psychophysical thing that really blew my head open.
Okay.
And so he kind of introduced me to, not to sound like a douchebag, like the craft of acting or what it takes to really be good at it.
Yeah.
He introduced me to how much work goes into it.
Well, and that's the thing is I understand why you feel like that comes off as douchey because I'm the most pretentious person in the world when it comes to comedy. Like people could get the entire room to laugh, and I'd be like, yeah, but you're not saying anything. So I understand that feeling of like, God, I sound like a douche. But it's at the end of the day, it's an art form. Like
And you have to treat it like that.
you're
yeah.
literally you are becoming someone else. At least that's the goal. You're totally changing everything about yourself to become this other thing.
Yeah.
So it is an incredibly difficult art form. And I just know that from experience because I've done theater and done a little acting. And I remember talking to you about this where I could be sitting on the couch and I could recite a monologue or a back and forth from all sorts of movies or shows just because I'm obsessive and I watch it a lot. And I can start crying on command in front of my girlfriend and like I can make you believe anything if we're sitting on the couch. But the second I have to do it in front of people, I'm like, fuck this.
Right. That's kind of what he taught me was where the technique comes in and how you can have sort of Chekhov is very much just building this bag of tools.
Yeah.
That you can reach in and grab like a plumber grabs tools and say, "Oh, I'm going to use, this one this time."
Okay.
And it gives you, somewhere to start from always.
Yeah.
And that really helped me with my nerves problem because I had a big nerves problem at the beginning when I first started acting to the point where like I would uncontrollably shake.
At auditions and stuff?
I mean, at auditions in class.
Oh,
Like-
wow.
Like in class, and literally my hands would lock up in like fucking rigor mortis.
Oh my God!
Like that dude
just because
from
you were
Scary Movie.
Yeah.
Just because I would get so nervous. So, he kind of built me out of that, and I still work with him, on auditions like over Zoom, but I worked in his school for about 5 years.
And this is in Boston?
Yeah. And that's what kind of, it gave me that foundation, and that's when I started booking work, and that helped me realize that, okay, this can be a career, and this is how you do it.
Yeah. So what was the first, and then we're going to get into some of these stories, what was the first gig that you got where you were like, obviously it's not booking a sitcom and now you've got all this money and all this accolades and stuff, but like the first thing that you did, was it the student films that you were helping your friends with where you were like, okay, I can see myself kind of like, here we go. Like this is like, I want to say break, but it's not really a big break, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like your first, like, okay, I got it. I got this.
The student films was just sort of, that's where I fell in love, like I said, with that environment of being on set and being in that creative space all the time around people that are also thinking like that and working towards the same goal. But then theater in Boston is where I really, kind of initially cut my teeth and kind of convince myself that I can do it.
Okay, that's I guess the better way to ask that question is, when did you figure out like, oh, I'm pretty good at this? So that would be theater in Boston.
Yeah, I did some like fringe stuff that, it was very, it was professional theater, but kind of amateur professional, but that I got some recognition for, and some good write-ups in like in the Globe and like legit publications, and that I had so much fun doing. Theater was kind of my way into it, and that's very much that's the actor's medium. Like film and TV are for the writers and the directors, and the actors show up and we do a job for them.
Yeah.
But theater is still, that's the actor's domain, because it's just you out there.
Yeah.
So that's where I kind of got over all those, that nerve stuff and that rawness, and first time I was really using some of that technique and stuff, and that's where I fell in love with it, for sure.
Okay, that's awesome. That's so good to hear. So you decide, fuck it, I'm going to pack everything up and move to the big city?
Well, for a while, so I did theater in Boston for a while, and I got, a couple small things like The Equalizer that came, because a lot of stuff films in Boston now.
Yeah.
I did that, and I had a small role in Detroit, the Catherine Bigelow movie, and I was doing theater in Boston for like a good, 4 or 5 years, while I was getting, deeper and deeper into this bar scene.
So because I completely forgot. At the same time, you're like drinking and going out and having a good time.
Yeah, I mean, I'm like a daily. By the time I'm like 24, 25, I'm like a daily drinker.
Yeah.
I was working.
You're an artist.
Yeah. I was working at a bar in Dorchester, which is just the next neighborhood over from South Boston. That was like a neighborhood spot. I worked there for about 5 years, and they let me do whatever I want. So, I was drinking while I was working. I was drinking after I was working. I was drinking before I was working. And in between that, I would do these theater gigs, and I kept putting off moving to New York. And then, I met my current girlfriend that we've been dating for about almost 5 years now.
Wow.
And she...
So this is after the toxic 5 years?
Yeah. I mean, there are a ton of stories there with that chick. But Michelle's the one that kind of...
Shouts out Michelle.
That kind of made me realize that, the way I was living wasn't normal, because, on both sides of my family, alcoholism is everywhere.
Yeah.
So even being a daily drinker and working in a bar like I was, it never seemed like out of the ordinary, because I was always... I was never not around alcoholics.
I wouldn't say alcohol. I wouldn't label alcoholics as far as my family, but they are heavy drinkers. There's a lot. I mean, we're Eastern European, so but everyone gets their stuff done, and you can say high functioning, or you could just say, heavy drinkers. But drinking was so prevalent growing up that it was just like, this isn't a big, like, what's...
No, this, to
and
me...
I've talked to my girlfriend who grew up in a not that kind of environment, and I've mentioned stories, and she's like, what the fuck? What are you talking about? And I'm like, that's a normal thing. And she's like, no, it's not.
That was like the first time like Michelle ever came to like one of our family like gatherings. Like, we have a big ski trip that we do every year on my mom's side, where like...
I already know where this is going.
Well, because my mom's one of 6, and my dad is too.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I have on both sides, I have, I mean, now with the really young ones, I have like 30 cousins on both sides. So we have this big ski trip every year where there's like 40 of us in the house. And the first time Michelle went up there, it's just like 4 days of debauchery.
Yeah.
You're just drinking from, Bailey's and coffee when you wake up. Every 2 runs on the slopes, you're jumping off to get a beer or two. And, she was kind
Shots
of like...
in between, yeah.
She was like, this is fun, but, like, this is what you guys do? And it was the first time in my life where I was like, yeah, your family doesn't do this. Like, they're... Like, it's not unusual for your uncle to throw up in a snowbank, or like she was there the year we almost burnt the house down.
Really?
Yeah. And my 2 uncles on my mom's side are firefighters, and we almost burnt down the ski house.
God.
It was like the second night there.
Yeah, tell this story.
And we're all after dinner, like, so, usually a game will start, and everyone, starts drinking in earnest. And I don't want to paint it like my whole family's alcoholics.
Yeah. I get into trouble sometimes because I forget there are quite a few people who listen, and then I'll get like,
Right.
an
I don't want
email
my
or a
mom to
text
call me.
message
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
"Hey, why don't you back off?"
Right. I get my Aunt Kathy will call me and be like, you listen, you don't need to frame everybody in your problems.
Yeah.
But so we were, getting after it, and my one uncle loves fire. He's just.
This the firefighter?
No, he's a cop.
Okay.
So
Co-op.
he was getting a fire going, but he was starting it. We didn't have any like kindling or whatever left, like fire starter. But what we did have was about like 20 empty 30 racks.
Yeah.
So he started burning those like under it to get it going, but he didn't open the flute.
Oh,
So
shit.
like 30 minutes into this, like 40 of us start looking around and like, it's really like Jerry, it's really smoky in here. Like, what are you doing? And he was like, I can't get it lit. I don't know what's going on.
Because there's no air coming in.
And then we walk out and look up on the roof, and there are like these embers shooting out like
Yeah.
fireworks because it's trying to get out.
Yeah.
But they're sprinkled all over the roof at this
Oh,
point.
my God.
And we're up in Bridgerton, Maine, which is way up there, and we were down like a single lane road that was all like snowed and iced over because it's the middle of February.
No help is coming.
So my uncles who are firefighters are freaking out like the roof is going to catch on fire because literally, I mean, it's a huge place to obviously house 40 of us, and the roof is covered in these embers.
Yeah.
That are just
And they're
shooting out of the chimney. So we call the fire department.
Leave it to the fucking cop.
Yeah, exactly. So we call the fire department, and they have to back down like 3 fire trucks down this like mile-long single-lane road in the middle
Oh, my God.
bumfuck Maine at like 2 a.m. While we're all standing outside, and they showed up, and they were like, they took one look at it, and they were like, the flute's not open. And they were like, there's 2 of you here that are firefighters, and you, and we were not allowed in that house anymore. Is the conclusion of that story?
Wow.
But
God.
so much that was like the first introduction to Michelle to like
how
my
we do
family
things.
gets
Yeah.
after it.
Yeah.
And that was the first time that I was almost like, oh wow, like this is not how everyone's family does it.
Yeah. And it's honestly, it's a weird thing because I've been with exes before, and obviously Savannah now, where you go to hang out with their family, and I've got this whole picture of like the whole idea of what we do on holidays, and then I go and hang out with them, and I'm like, these are fucking lame.
Yeah,
Like, this is boring.
I mean, when I was drinking, and, and we go to her family, I'd be like, oh my god, like I'd be in the bathroom, like I'd bring 2 beers in, and
Well,
chill.
because it's one of those things where it's like with my ex, it was like, yeah, we might have a glass of wine, or like her dad could get after it, and her dad and I used to have some fun times, but like when we go to visit her mom and stuff, it's like, yeah, we might have a glass of wine with dinner, and at the time when I'm drinking, I'm like, come on, like,
right.
What
And
are
now
we
I'm like,
doing?
oh, that's just healthy.
Yeah, that's a
healthy
normal
lifestyle.
Yeah,
Like, oh, that's good.
it's so weird to look
Fosters
at.
a healthy environment.
Yeah. What do you mean you guys don't get hammered and scream
Yeah.
at each other? What the fuck is that? So then Michelle kind of nudges you to make the move.
I mean, she very much helped me, through the course of, things like that. Helped me realize, how much of a problem I did have. And then, she kind of saw how much I struggled in trying to stop it, because for years I did, like these half measures where, I said I wasn't going to drink at work anymore.
Yeah.
Or then it became, I'm not going to drink, after work anymore. And then,
switch from hard liquor to beer.
Yeah. Or I got, to be friends with this guy who ended up being my bookie, and he could get me, Valium. And I heard Valium was good for helping to stop drinking. Yeah, dude, this is a true story. So I started.
No, I don't mean to laugh, but I'm laughing because obviously I've been down.
That's the addict
that
brain,
exact
dude.
same road.
Where it's
I'm
like,
wait a second. How about this? How about this? I'll snort oxys.
Yeah, yeah, because that way I'm not drinking.
Yeah, there's no liquor on my breath.
But and this guy who I was gambling with and losing a bunch of money to, every week, he had a friend who went through recovery, so he gave me this half-ass solution of like, he used Valium and that kind of replaced, gave you the same kind of feeling of drinking, without drinking. So he would get me these, like, he'd get me like 40 at a time.
Jesus.
And I would for a couple months I just replaced it. I was just doing Valium, but then gradually drinking slipped back in.
Well, it's really good on Valium.
Drinking.
Yeah.
So that all came to a head at a Lady Gaga concert.
Oh my God. Okay, let's go.
That
We're going to
I
Lady Gaga.
So, this bookie I was gambling with, and
What was your sport to gamble? Or did you just gamble on everything? Maya, stop it.
everything, dude.
Okay.
I mean, it started with football. I ran like a squares thing at the bar I worked at. And then this guy was just like a neighborhood guy, but he ran a book. He had like a website and everything.
Oh, Jesus.
That made it super easy, and I dealt in cash. So
Yeah, you're a bartender, of course. You got to deal in cash.
So Michelle and
Plus, it's super duper illegal.
Yeah. He was not a good guy for me to be around at all. Like, it was every vice in the book, and then I just threw gambling on top of it.
Yeah, and then, hey,
so we were getting ready to go to this Lady Gaga
give me the over on the Pats.
Yeah, exactly. Only not just the Pats, like across the board.
Yeah.
Like all 14 games. So we're getting ready to go to this fucking Lady Gaga concert at Fenway. My girlfriend's a huge Lady Gaga fan. It was me, her, my best friend Liam, his girlfriend, and my other best friend Ryan, and the girl he was dating at the time. And so I placed these bets. I forget what they were on before we go to the show. And this is
we always do. Because I'm a big gambler too, and still I still like to gamble every now and again. And it's like if someone asked me like, "What's your worst?" Like I remember my worst loss, but like, "What's your second worst loss?" I'm like, I don't fucking know. Like you just forget. Like you place the bet, and it's like, all right. Once like a week passes, you're like, what did I bet on?
Right, and like I said, I was in the in the middle of all my drinking and stuff. So half the time I didn't remember. Like I had to check what I bet on the next morning.
Yeah.
So I placed my bets for the night before this show, and I like I said, I forget the exact bet, but it was something that I was sure of.
Yeah, sure
something
thing.
I'd done my research on. So I put like $2,000.
Holy
on it, and
shit!
I had to my name at that point probably like $2,300.
Yeah.
But in my head, I was like, I'm gonna double it, and I'm gonna double it again and again, and then I was like, I'm moving to New York City next week, dude. I'm gonna have like 20 grand.
Yeah.
So
this is so relatable for me. I've literally done every single one of those things.
And
except the Lady Gaga concert.
And I was taking these Valiums, and I hadn't drank in probably like 3 months at this point.
Oh,
so
yeah. I almost said awesome, but it's like, wait, you're doing Valium, so it's
good for you, bro.
You're
killing it. So Michelle sees me going in the right direction because she has no idea about the Valium.
Oh, so she just thinks you're not drinking.
Correct.
God.
So
does she know about it now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was like, shit, I gotta edit this whole fucking thing.
No, imagine, dude. So we go to the show, and we're having a good time. And I had taken a couple of these things before I go, just to deal with the anxiety of it. But we're having a good time at the show, and then I happen to check my phone, and I lost that bet.
The one you do the research on?
Yeah. The sure thing was gone. So I realized in the middle of like poker face that I have $300 to my name.
Oh my God.
Like in the middle of paparazzi, I realized that my net worth has been cut in half.
No, but yeah, more, almost 100%. You've cut your net worth by 90%.
Right. So I immediately, tell Michelle and them I'm going to the bathroom, and I go to the beer stand and get like 3 beers.
Yeah.
And so I started drinking like kind of on my own that
night. Down to 235.
Yeah.
At 300, now I'm down to 235.
And then we go to this hot dog spot that's outside Fenway afterwards.
Can they tell you because you've been taking Valium, so the second you start drinking, I'm sure
I held it together through the end of the show.
Okay.
But by the time we got to this place to get food afterwards, I'm like borderline legless.
Okay.
So everyone knows something's going on. And then we get our hot dogs, and we're sitting at the bar, and for some reason I have no idea why I didn't like the way the condiments were put on it. Like the way this dude put on the condiments, I didn't like. And I picked up these 2 hot dogs and I threw them off the back of the bar.
Oh no!
Like over the bartender's head, and just stuck them to the wall, out of nowhere. I wasn't saying, I wasn't talking to anybody. Like we just
You
got
just
our
looked and-
we got our food and people are people are having conversation around me, and I just picked up both these hot dogs and threw them over the bar and stuck them on the back wall. And so we obviously get thrown out, and everyone's like, "Dude, what's going on?"
But because we both work in a bar, so my first instinct if someone does that, do you remember exactly like what happened? Like, what did the bartender
I'm still
say?
kind of like borderline, like I'm not blacked out at this point.
But you are kind of.
I remember doing it, and I remember throwing it and seeing it, and I don't. The bartender was just. He was
he
just
like,
shocked.
what the fuck? Yeah, what the fuck are you doing?
He wasn't. I don't remember him being mad or even really saying anything. He just couldn't. His brain couldn't compute.
Yeah, because I'm thinking about it too, and I'm like, if someone just like picked up something and threw it over my head, I'd be like,
someone that hadn't said anything to you
Yeah,
other
I'd be
than
like,
ordered food.
what
Yeah.
is happening?
Yeah, and then I didn't like throw it and then like say anything or have an outburst.
just
I
threw it.
threw them and sat there stoic, like fucking like
Went into your tool bag and got the stoic out of there.
yeah, just sat there like stillness, just like a fucking like a murderer. So I think he was like shocked and scared, like this guy is gonna
He's gonna kill everyone.
like get the knives away from him. So my friends get me out of there, and at this point I'm legless. And the tunnel kind of closed at this point. I don't really remember much. And I, obviously, Michelle's really concerned. And that night, the next thing I remember is I'm waking up, throwing up.
Okay.
So I was throwing up.
So you got back to the apartment, and now you're just.
Yeah, and I mean, Michelle had enough, and she knew what was going on. So she didn't stay that night, obviously, and left. And my friends put me in my room, and I woke up that night like in my own puke.
Okay.
Like could have died. Like
Yeah.
I was I was just like face down in it.
Well, that's how people. A lot of times when people die that way, it's because.
Dude, I was John Bonhaming it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like not good.
Because they pass out on their back, completely blacked out, and then they choke on their own vomit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And thank God. I mean, if I was on my back, I'd probably be dead.
Yeah.
So that was the first time where I realized, internally that I had an issue.
Yeah.
And I didn't stop drinking or anything then, but that
Never
was
do. We never do.
it took me another 3 years to
Took
get.
me 5. Yeah.
Yeah, but that was the first time in my life where I was like, "Whoa, I have a problem."
Yeah.
Was after losing 90% of my net worth at a Lady Gaga concert. She was literally like rappelling through the air.
And you're like,
as I was like, fuck.
My life is over.
I was like, I'm never getting to New York now.
So, you got everything together. How long have you been in New York now?
We've been here about 3 years.
Okay.
It was actually just almost 3 years on the nose.
Okay, so you were able to still get everything together and save up the money while you were still drinking and everything.
Yeah, I mean, it became so my girlfriend's people, her family's from this area, so I was kind of stalling back in Boston. Kind of had this cushy bar gig where I could drink and do whatever I wanted. I was making good money, and I was doing my theater gigs, which I wasn't making any money, but I was like well known enough in that little circle that I felt good about it.
Well, yeah, and you're getting your acting fix by doing the theater thing. At least that's my experience when I was in Jacksonville. Is I was getting my stand-up fix doing all these different shows in the Southeast, and then I had my good job at the restaurant where I was making money. So it's like there's a part of me that's like, you don't have to leave. Like you're making great money, especially for Jacksonville. You are doing comedy all the time. So like you don't have to go,
right? But you're kind of not building it.
Yeah, but then there's another party that's like, are you out of your fucking mind? Of course you have to go.
Yeah. So she eventually was like, I'm moving. I'm going to New York.
Okay.
And that was where I kind of had to choose, like
put up or shut up. Yeah.
Yeah. So she moved, and then like about 6 months later, I came and met her here.
Did you stay in the relationship when she moved?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, like, let me get it together and I'll come meet you, or was it like I'm going to New York? If you decide to come up there, then that's good. But if not,
no, it wasn't like a breakup thing.
Okay.
She was just like, I'm moving back to New York. Like you can come with me, or
not.
not. But that kind of gave me the will to be like, all right, it's time to make this move.
Yeah.
So yeah, we did it together. She moved back
awesome.
to her parents' house for like 6 months, and then we got our first place in Astoria. And then it was still another year and a half, 2 years before I really got sober.
Yeah. So now you're sober now. Are you like, if you don't mind my asking, are you like meetings kind of guy sober, or are you just kind of doing your own? Because I've met so many people doing this podcast where some people just don't drink, and then there are other people who got really bad, and so they have a sponsor and they go to meetings and they work the steps, and then there are people who always fall like kind of in the middle. So I didn't know if you.
Yeah, around like December last year is when my girl finally got fed up with it and was like, you need to stop or I'm gone.
Okay.
And so again, that was her kind of like inspiring me and getting me to get my shit together. And I tried a couple meetings and I'd gone to a few back in Boston, kind of.
Yeah.
Because
I'm sure after the Lady Gaga concert,
yeah,
you were like, maybe I should check this out.
But at that point, I was, the stories I heard there, I was still in the stage where I'm like, this isn't me. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not that far gone.
Dude, I was in the hospital dying, and I still sometimes go to meetings, and I'm like, these guys are crazy. I'm
yeah,
fine.
like, wow, you guys have an issue. But so, and she was like, Michelle was like, you need to get sober and you need to talk to someone who's not me. And I didn't want to go back to the meetings. And this was also like around COVID time, so they were all virtual.
Yeah.
So I did do a couple virtual ones, and I just felt like I couldn't connect over that platform.
Yeah, I can't do it.
But I found this really great therapist that I'm still with.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's kept me on track. And then also my dad is in recovery. He's currently.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, he's currently in a sober house. So right around that, just before that, I had that talk with Michelle. My dad was diagnosed with the first stages of cirrhosis.
Ah, shit.
So that and my girl were kind of all the wake-up call I needed.
Yeah.
And so with, the therapy, and then those first couple months, I basically white-knuckled it.
Yeah, that's because it's the first. I mean, my hat's off to you and anybody who does it like that, because what I learned through rehab and detox and then living in a halfway house and stuff like that is there's no, because I tell people all the time, AA is not like, I'm in AA, but that's not for everybody. Like, if you can do it another way, I do more power to you. My hat's off to you. But I've obviously dabbled in every different way to quit drinking. And so for me, it works. So that's what I do. But I could not imagine this last time getting sober, like doing what you did, like just getting through it. Like, that's insane to me. Like, that takes so much more, whatever it is.
And that, I mean, the white knuckling thing took a couple months where I had step backs like every week.
Okay.
Where I would, sneak out.
Yeah.
And, run to the liquor store while Michelle was doing laundry and get like 2 nips really quick just to like get myself back to level.
Yeah.
So I went back and forth like that for a few months, and then finally I put together 30 days.
Yeah.
And then 30 became 60, and then I just kind of got on a roll like that. And having my dad going through the same thing was what I needed too, because I saw where I was headed.
Yeah.
And my dad was trying to quit after, he still is after, 40 years of heavy drinking. And I saw, the detoxes and he, like I said, he's in a sober house now, and what he had to go through and how difficult it's been for him. And that was really the big thing for me. It was just like, you have to stop this.
Yeah. You're seeing what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So
I was like, this is in your family line and you have to stop this now.
Yeah. So, well, that's awesome that you were able to get a handle on it, for sure. But before you got a handle on it, there are a few things that happened. I want to hear about, you just wrote down Gnome Story, Kid Cudi. What happened there?
Oh, yes. So, I mean, that was in Emerson. That was actually like right after I dropped out. So like me and he's my best friend Liam, who's also like my best drinking friend of all time. We got tickets to this Kid Cudi show. Because, dude, Kid Cudi was the shit.
What year is this?
In the mid-2000s. This was like 2011, dude.
Okay,
this
here
was
we
right
go.
after the first Man on the Moon,
Here we
bro.
go.
Soundtrack.
I remember. I was still in college then.
Yeah. So we go to this show out in Springfield, Mass, which Springfield is like the asshole of Massachusetts. Like, is not a good town.
Okay.
But he was seeing this girl from Lowell, which is also a shithole town.
Yeah,
And
we've all seen The Fighter.
Yeah. So
The Pride of Lowell.
and she wanted to go to this. Well, we all did. We wanted to go to this Cudi show.
Okay, so we're back. We're going to Springfield, the
Yeah.
asshole of Mass, with the
asshole
girl
of-
from Lowell.
So we get to like this house party beforehand.
Is this in Springfield?
Yeah, in Springfield, and
So wait, whose house?
a friend of this girl that my buddy had seen a few times. So she's like, "Yeah, we got this little like party we can go to beforehand."
And it's trash.
Dude, it's in the projects.
Yeah.
It's like the 20th floor of
The way you
of a
described
housing
the whole
development.
situation, I could already tell where it was
It's in the projects.
Yeah.
It's like literally like the 20th floor of this housing development, and we get there and there's like 30 people crammed into this place. So immediately, me and Liam are like, let's just get the fuck out of here. But we stick it out for a little bit because he's trying to like stay with this girl,
Yeah.
and then
She must have been very attractive.
she was. I mean, it was. I got why he did it.
Yeah.
But so we're like drinking out of these like plastic cups, and then we finally decide let's just go to the show. We convince her to leave, and we get there. We get to the venue, and he goes on like 2 hours late.
Yeah.
So
That happens a lot, I've noticed, in certain concerts I've been to where it's like, show starts at 8, everyone's crammed in there, and then it's like 11:15, and you're like, what the fuck?
yeah. So this to me and my buddy, this was just permission to get fucking hammered.
Yeah. Okay.
So, and they had this like little back bar, and it was this shit venue. So, I mean, we were like 20 at the time, so they weren't carding or anything. So, we've like turned her friends over to our side now, and we're like buying them drinks and shit. And finally, Kid Cudi comes out at like 1:45, and we had like nosed up. We're like 3 people deep from the front of the stage, and he's going into the second song. And my buddy turns to me and he pulls out a joint and he's like, "I'm going to throw it up to him." And I'm like, "That's fucking awesome. Do that."
Fucking right.
So he throws this joint on stage and it hits Kid Cudi like in the neck. And he looks at it and it's not the reaction we were hoping for. Like he's pissed that someone just hit him in the face. And he literally points behind him, and this huge African-American gentleman comes out from like the wings. This guy who built like fucking Vince Wilfork. And he and Cudi's like still doing the song, like, but he points down. He thought it was one of this girl's friends who's standing next to my buddy Liam.
Good. Yeah, it was her. Absolutely.
So Cudi's doing his song, and this gigantic guy comes out to the foot of the stage. Cudi points at this girl's friend, and this guy, I'm not even kidding, like sumo leaped off the stage and landed right in front of this kid and picks him up by like his collar and just dragged him out.
No questions asked.
No. And this kid he did nothing. He had no idea what happened. So, and the girl sees this whole thing and is pissed now because it was like her best friend got thrown out. And I've never seen a guy that big move.
Big, that agile?
He had the grace of a ballerina. He flew through the air. It was ridiculous, like a gazelle. And he landed right in front of this kid, and he literally picked him up like a kitten, like by the scruff of his neck, and just like dragged him out. So this girl, she's fucked up now, so she's all bent out of shape. So
What a bitch.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. So we have to leave, basically.
Because she's freaking out. Her
she's
best friend's outside now.
Right.
And
So we leave with her and this other girl, her other friend, and we go back to this fucking apartment in the housing projects, and we're locked out. And
were you planning on staying at this apartment, or was this?
We didn't have a plan at this
Okay.
point. I don't
You're
know.
just going,
We didn't have a plan
yeah.
initially.
We're going where the wind takes us. Only plan was to go to Kid Cudi. Other than that,
But
it's
in
all
my
up the air.
mind, like, this is kind of going good because we've picked up another girl now, so it's 2-2. So we're going back. I was like, all right, we got her friend like thrown out on the curb by fucking Vince Wilfork. But other than that, we're doing all right. So we get back to the apartment.
Yeah, one little setback.
We get back to the apartment and we're locked out. And this isn't the girl's place. It isn't the other girl's place. But this,
Whose place is it? Why would you go back there?
It was one of her other friends.
Okay.
She just wanted to go back there.
Yeah. It's just a random friend, and she's like, let's go back to the house.
Right, because she figured everyone would come back there after the party.
Okay.
So, they have like this little gnome out front that's like this. I don't know. It's like in front of their doorway. I don't know, but it's like a gnome that should be like on a garden.
Yeah.
But they have it in front of this.
We've
door.
all seen the Travelocity commercials.
Exactly like that, but in a housing project for some reason. So we get back and we can't get in, and this new girl is freaking out because she's hungry and she wants chicken nuggets, and she brought chicken nuggets to this party and she knows they're in there.
Wow.
So
that's a weird sentence.
I get an idea, and I pick up this gnome and I just throw it through the window.
Jeez.
There's this little like.
Now explain, because every apartment building I've been in, there are no windows on the front end.
It had like next to it. On the side, like the door frame.
Gotcha. I know exactly what you're talking about.
One that runs down.
Yeah.
And
oh, damn it. All right. So you take the gnome right into the glass.
Yeah. I mean, this girl was going on and on about her chicken nuggets.
And you're like, fuck it, we'll get your chicken nuggets.
And I was like, all right, well, I'm not waiting. Who knows when that show's going to end. So,
that makes more sense. They're all at the show still. You guys left early.
Right. And
okay, that's why
me and Liam are still trying to get laid, kind of. So I'll go to him. I'll be like, dude, I'll just break this window. We'll get food and we'll get out of here.
Yeah.
Like we'll go back to Boston. We'll bring them back to Boston. So I break this like panel, and I'm a skinny dude, so I like weave my way in, and I'm in, and then the girl who wants the chicken nuggets fall behind me, but she fucking slices her arm open.
No one thinks to unlock the door?
No, I was going to unlock it.
Okay.
But this girl followed me for some reason.
God, and
like
then
stuck her head in and then was pulling her arm out and just cut her like like all of a sudden this girl's bleeding everywhere.
Yeah. Mix that with alcohol, thins out your blood.
Oh yeah, she's like a stuck pig. So we're like running around this house trying to like find something
blood
to like patch
leaking
her up.
everywhere.
And then we're like got like these paper towels around her, and then these kids come home. And they walk up to their apartment. There's probably like 8 of them now. It's thinned out, but it's the people that live there.
Yeah.
They walk up to their apartment, and the door's open. The window next to it's shattered, and this girl is on their couch, just like bleeding all over their shit. Because we got like the paper towels going, but she's still like all over the floor and shit. And they come in, and they immediately start screaming at this girl. And me and Liam were literally like just like slide out behind them,
please,
as they're yelling like it's about to get bad. And we like get behind them just enough, and we just run out.
Yes.
We just run out, dude.
Yes!
Skip the elevator, and we're down. Like, me and Liam didn't say anything to each other. We just looked at each other. And then,
just like
before their fury could turn at us, we were gone. And
what happened to the girl, Liam's girl?
I've never seen that girl again. I don't know. I think Liam may have, like, talked.
All that effort he put in staying at that dumb house party in the first place.
Dude, we were about to get the shit kicked out of us.
Yeah,
like,
but it
was going to be bad.
Vanished.
So
that's awesome.
We fucking run out, and we get in his car that he drove up there, and we start driving away. And we get on the highway, and he's like, "Dude, I'm too fucked up to drive. Like, I can't do a highway."
Yeah,
and
which is actually one of the safest places you can be when you're fucked up.
Right. For some reason,
city cops don't patrol the highway. And
no, he was like, "Dude, I'm seeing like double right now. I can't do it." So we pull.
I mean, that's the smart decision.
We pull over in this like 24-hour McDonald's, and we get McDonald's.
Got chicken nuggets.
We finally got the nuggets. Yeah, exactly. We finally got the nuggets, and we get like 2 bites into it and pass out in this parking lot, and wake up the next morning, and the inside of the interior of his dad's car is covered in like sweet and sour sauce for some reason. Like in our sleep, we just got this shit everywhere.
Yeah,
and we both get out of the car. And we're kind of just like surveying the scene, and then we look in the back seat, and there's the garden gnome.
You guys,
and I'm like, what is this doing here? And he was like, dude, you didn't see me grab that on the way out? And I was like, no, dude. And he just on his way, like running away from these kids. Oh, Liam's the best. He on the way out the door, I didn't even see him do it. He had a backpack on, and he swung this thing into his backpack, and it's in the back seat. So I go to like open the back seat, and I'm like, no way you stole that thing, and we're locked out.
Oh no.
We locked the keys in his car. So now this car that's covered in fucking sweet and sour sauce with this gnome in the back, We're in this 24-hour McDonald's in the middle of nowhere, completely hungover, and the keys are locked in the car. And we like look around, and I remember we like stumbled like over to some people who were like walking in to come help us, and they took like a look at us and were like shuffling their kids away.
Yeah.
Like these guys,
I've been in those situations.
Homeless.
Yeah.
And like the eyes were all bloodshot and shit.
You just look dirty.
We finally take a look around, and there's this fruit stand, this Quaker fruit stand.
Yeah.
With these Quakers selling like fruit on like it must have been a Sunday or something. I don't remember the exact day. So we had to go over to them, and we were like, listen, we're locked out of our car. Is there anything you can do to help us out? And this Quaker guy goes over and like pops the lock for us.
Oh, does he?
Yeah, and
yeah.
like this fucking savior, and lets us in the car. And we finally, it's Liam's dad's car, so we drive it back. And his dad takes one look at the car and one look at us, and just leaves it at that.
Oh, really? Okay, cool.
And then,
so a happy ending to the story. That girl may have died. Her friends probably beat the shit out of her, but other than that, happy ending.
But about 4 years later, I go to Liam's parents' house for something. I don't know. I think it was when his sister got engaged, like the engagement party. And on the front lawn is the gnome.
Oh, it's still there.
His dad's an art teacher, and he like restored it and like repainted it.
Fuck yeah.
And it is still guarding the front steps of their home now.
God, that's awesome. That is...
The gnome lives on. The gnome found a home.
The gnome found a home. That's awesome.
And it is still there to this day, as far as I know.
God, that's so good.
Sorry.
I wanted to talk. You had Getting Roofied on here.
Oh yeah, so I mean that's another banger.
Well, let's get into it.
Yeah, that's when I was back with that relationship I was talking about earlier.
Yeah, toxicity.
Yeah. It's with this girl named Amber that I met. She worked backstage at Blue Man Group. She was like on the crew.
Are you okay? Do you want me to edit that out? Or are you okay with?
That's not her real name.
Oh, okay.
There
you go.
I just threw that out there.
My man. Well, then I just totally destroyed the...
Yeah, you destroyed the whole effect there.
God damn it. I got to take that class.
No, I'm good, dude. I did that on the fly.
That was really good. We're going to have to get you back on.
So we're dating. We're like a year into dating at this point. Maybe even less. Maybe like 6-7 months. And she gets into burlesque.
Okay.
She wants to be a burlesque dancer. So she finds like this burlesque crew somehow in Boston. And like I'm going along with it, even though I'm 19. She at this time is probably like 25.
Okay.
But it's kind of like that first relationship where you're head over heels.
Yeah.
And you're like everything about this makes me uncomfortable, but I don't know how to verbalize my feelings.
Yeah, you're not going to say anything.
and I'm an insecure mess.
Yeah.
So I
fear
just
of them leaving.
Went along with it, even though it made me super uncomfortable because the dude who ran it was like. He looked like a dude who runs a burlesque troupe. He looked like the big guy from Penn and Teller. I don't know which one that is. It that Penn, the bigger guy?
Yeah, Penn Jillette.
He looked like him, but with like this greasy, like shoulder length black hair.
Okay.
And like these like marble like snake eyes. Like he looked like a dude that ran a burlesque troupe.
Yeah.
And he always skis me out. So this is her first show that she's doing, and it's at this venue in Cambridge that's like a bar that they rented out for the night. And her mom comes up to see her do it.
Oh, okay.
So it's like before the show, and I'm super insecure about it and uncomfortable in general. So naturally, I decided to get hammered. And so I'm drinking with her mom before the show.
As you do.
Yeah. And like the guy that's bartending it is like, they rented out the whole venue. So the bartender is like one of the guys that runs it too.
Okay.
And he's also this fucking creep. And I got a weird vibe from him, and I didn't like him. But I'm hanging out with her mom before the show, and we're drinking. And then Amber comes out to hang out with us and wearing like nothing. So that makes me like even more like insecure and upset. So I'm like well into it. And I'm pretty drunk by the time this show starts. And her mom lived about 45 minutes, an hour away. So right before the show starts, a bartender buys her a drink, and she was a good-looking older lady, very good-looking. Buys her a drink on the house, and she goes, "Nah, I don't want it. I got to drive back." So she gives it to me.
Okay.
So I take this drink. It was like a gin and soda, and all of a sudden the show starts, and I just remember everything slowing down like I was underwater. Like
Oh my God.
Like I'm watching the show, and like the girls are dancing, and like they'll do like a twirl, and like the tassels that they're wearing. I was like seeing trails, like I was on acid or something. And I was like, man, something's wrong. And I turned to her mom to say, man, something's wrong. I'll never forget the look she had on her face. It was like I spoke Mandarin to her. She was like, what? And I was like, something's wrong. And she couldn't understand me because it just came out like, wrong.
Oh, my God.
I was like speaking in tongues to her.
Jesus.
So she thinks I'm just drunk. And I start to like lose like motor function. Like I'm sitting in a stool, but I can't quite remember how to do it.
Yeah.
So I'm like putting my elbow on the bar and it'll slip off, or like I'll go to adjust myself, but putting my weight on one foot and like my leg will buckle, like I'm made out of rubber.
Oh my God.
So like people start to notice and are concerned, and the dude who runs the show comes over, this creepy guy. And he starts talking to me, and I took it as hostility, I guess. Like, I'm still aware, like, the tunnel hasn't closed. And for some reason, I thought this guy was angry at me and was, like, yelling at me. But he was just trying to figure out what's going on. So I went to, like, hit him.
Oh, my God.
But from what everyone tells me, it was, like, the slowest punch in the world. Like, it was, like, one of those punches, like, in your dream.
Yeah.
Where you're
you
like,
can't move.
You're like,
you feel
I'm
you're being held
never
back.
going to
Yeah.
connect with this. So, like, the dude... So I think I'm, like, going to clock this kid, like, in the head. And this dude is kind of just, like, moves his head, like, 2 inches. And the slowest fist in the world just goes by his nose. And then the guy, the bouncer who was there, who they hired, he came over because he saw that. And I try, and I go... I fell down, and I was trying to hit him. But I was doing these slow punches again, and I was on my knees at that point, and it just looked like I was like tapping this guy in the groin, like I was just like playing patty cake with this dude's balls. Like I thought I was punching him in the nuts, but I was just like tapping him on the tip of his penis. So everyone is like, not only this guy's wasted, but he's a fucking creep. So now you know,
you're the creep.
I was all self-righteous, like these fucking losers, like just looking to see like half a titty, and meanwhile I'm playing like fucking ping pong with this bouncer's nuts. So like I get thrown out, obviously. Like they
obviously
they get me out of there. And
is your girlfriend aware of is Amber aware of what's happening at the time? What's her mom saying? What's going on?
Her mom like escorted me out with the bouncer, and I was like legless at this point. I couldn't stand up. And again, they just thought I was hammered, dude. So I get out there, and you know they're waiting for Amber to do her thing, and she does her routine or whatever, and comes out, and she's all pissed because her mom had to miss it, because again they think I'm just drunk.
Yeah.
So she comes out with her friend who had also come to the show, and they're yelling at me, and I can't really comprehend it. Everyone's kind of yelling at me, like the bouncer, her mom, like everyone's screaming at me, and I'm just like, what's going on? So they get me in a car, and they bring me home, and her mom goes home, and they bring me into the apartment, and then her and her friend go to get pizza across the street, and in like the 5 minutes it took for them to do that, I called her like 20 times because I kept forgetting where they had gone.
Oh, shit.
So I'd call her up and be like, where the fuck are, like, I'd be freaking out, like, where the fuck are you? Like, where, like, are you at some dude's house? And they'd be like, no, we're at across the street getting pizza. And then I'd be like, oh, okay. And I'd hang up, and then I'd call back and be like, hey, baby, like, where are you? Like, I miss you. Like, I haven't seen you in so long. And they'd be like, we're across the street getting pizza.
Wow.
And I did that like 20 times, just completely forgot. Every single time I hung up the phone, forgot where they were.
So is it coming... Is she aware now that like something's seriously wrong, or is she just thinking you're being an asshole?
She thinks I'm being an asshole. Like she didn't care enough.
Yeah.
To put 2 and 2 together. In retrospect, they still think I'm just being a drunk asshole. So they come back to the place finally with pizza, and her friend breaks out like an 8-ball.
Okay.
And I'm still like conscious, like upright somehow. So in the middle of this, I'm roofied, and I start doing coke.
Jesus.
And they said that I was like those like car washing, like inflatable thing.
Yeah.
Where like I like this rubbery dude, and I would just pass out, and then I would do a line, and then I would wake up.
Yeah.
And just be like running around the house for like 2 seconds and be like, oh, he's fine. And then I would like pass out again.
God, your body was probably like, what the fuck is
Dude,
going on?
I have no idea how I didn't die. And eventually, like, I've passed out for real. None of that I remember. I don't remember anything after getting in the car. I don't remember all the phone calls at the pizza joint. But I get back. I wake up the next morning, and it's the worst hangover of my life. Like debilitating. I can't move.
Where you just like turn your head and you feel like you're gonna vomit. Like you can't.
Yeah, physically, like couldn't move a finger.
Yeah, I've had some of those hangovers when I've mixed like way too much drinking, and then you do coke to try to offset it, and then you end up drinking like probably double or triple the amount you normally would.
Right.
And I've woken up with those hangovers, and I've had alcohol poisoning 3 times, where you wake up and you're like, I think I'm dying.
Right. Yeah. It was like where I thought something was physically wrong.
Yeah.
And she was like, well, you were just fucking hammered last night. You're an asshole. Like, my mom didn't get to see my fucking burlesque set or whatever.
Fuck you, Amber.
Like, my mom didn't get to see my burlesque show. Like, not a sentence I care about right now.
Or ever.
I'm
in your
sorry.
life.
Your mom didn't get to see your titty tassels. All right. And so I'm like, I need to go to the fucking hospital. So
okay.
I finally convince her to take me, and I get there, and they take my blood, and they're like, yeah, you have a lot of Roufied in your system. And I finally put 2 and 2 together, and the fucking bartender had tried to roofie her mom.
Did you, like, show her the toxicology report like I fucking told you?
Yeah, so we brought the toxicology report to this fucking creepy burlesque guy.
So now she's on your side. Now all is forgiven.
She has to be. I'm like, dude, there's like this amount of Roufied in your system.
I could have fucking died. They tried to kill your mom.
Well, the thing that really turned her was the mom thing, and that the fact that her mom drove an hour back. So if her mom had that drink, it would have kicked in while she was driving home.
Oh yeah, I didn't think about that.
And who the fuck knows what could have happened?
Yeah.
So, yeah, we go, and like the guy like sweet talks my girlfriend at the time out of it. Like, it wasn't the bartender, and she ends up staying with this fucking troupe for forever.
So what could he possibly say? You have the toxicology report.
Well, he wasn't convinced it was the bartender that did it. He was like, it could have been anybody.
Oh, so he's thinking maybe someone who was at the show tried to roofie her mom, and it wasn't the bartender.
Right. He's like, you don't have any proof it was this guy, and you can't talk. You're like, what am I going to do? I can't just assume it. But dude, I knew it. I knew it because I remember the way he gave her the drink and how he was talking to her beforehand.
And he gave her a drink on the house, and then you snatched it and drank it.
She was the only one that was getting a drink.
Yeah.
And they tried to explain it away like, no, he was just trying to, your mom's attractive or whatever.
Yeah, he was trying to roofie her because she's attractive.
Right.
We're all tracking the same. We're all on the same page.
This is a toxic relationship.
Yeah.
I couldn't convince them that, someone was trying to roofie her mom.
God.
So yeah,
she just really liked burlesque, man.
That's
she didn't want to
the
leave
time
the
I
truth.
got roofied at a burlesque show.
God, that's insane. Well, I really do appreciate you coming on. We have a lot more stories, so we got to do a part 2 of this eventually.
Yeah, sure, man. This was a lot of fun.
I've been told that sometimes when I have new guests on and I want to talk about all this stuff, some of my listeners are like, it's getting kind of long, so I'm trying to taper back.
Yeah, so, absolutely.
Plug. We forgot to do this at the beginning, but plug everything that you have coming up because you just booked a gig. I don't know if you're allowed to talk about that.
No, I have a big. It's actually a second callback for Blue Bloods. I haven't booked that one yet. But I just did a show called The Rise of Wall Street. I just finished filming my portion. It's called The Rise of Wall Street. It's like a docu-drama hybrid that's going to be on Peacock.
Okay.
Probably around Christmas, New Year's time. It's a limited series. I think it's going to be 12 episodes.
Okay. And then you, I remember we were talking about this at work, but a project you were a part of was in the Toronto Independent Film Festival.
Oh no, short film I did a few years ago called Between the Trees.
Yeah.
was a finalist at the Tribeca Film Festival.
Tribeca Film Festival. That
for
was
their
it.
short film corner.
I just remember because I watched your reel and I was like, that one was really good. And you're like, yeah, actually it was. And I was like, oh, did you get to go to the film festival? And you're like, nah, I had to do the Equalizer.
Yeah, that was
And I was like, get the fuck. All right, you're coming on the podcast. Get
yeah,
the
that
fuck outta
was
here.
back. Yeah, I couldn't go to that because
I couldn't go to the festival. I had Denzel. You know, that's Denzel.
doing a drive-by scene with me.
Yeah, you know, you can't make Mr. Washington upset. But
But yeah, no, people can check me out on my website. It's MatthewJamesFagerberg.com.
boom, beautiful. Thank you everybody for listening again. Check out everything at BrennanTComedy.com. Brennan T Comedy on all social media. October 7th, I'll be at the Broadway Comedy Club. I'm trying to get in at the Stand, so we'll see what happens there. I love you all so much. Thank you for listening. Subscribe on Patreon, and we'll talk to you all next week.